Welcome to the e-learning course concerning the fish tourism sector. In the next 25 minutes we will take you to an educational tour concerning the fish tourism sector. During this e-learning course, significant information for the concept of blue growth, the state of the fish tourism sector and the potential job opportunities for a successful professional career in this sector will be presented. 71% of the Earth's surface is water. Our coasts and seas have the potential to deliver growth and jobs in the years to come. Therefore, it is important and necessary to further harness the oceans, seas and coasts in order to create jobs and value, always from a sustainable point of view. This concept is known as the blue growth. The blue economy represents roughly 5.4 million jobs, generates a gross added value of almost 500 billion a year, while the output of the global ocean economy is estimated at 1.3 trillion euros today, and this could be more than double by 2030. The European Commission has reiterated that Europe should not miss this opportunity. The extraordinary beauty, cultural wealth and great diversity of the European Union's coastal areas have made them the preferred destination for many holidaymakers from all over the world, making coastal and maritime tourism an important tourism sector. Employing over 3.2 million people, this sector generates a total of 183 billion euros in gross value added and representing over 1/3 of the maritime economy. Coastal tourism, represented among others by fish tourism activity, is a sector of major economic importance. Indeed, it is the most significant maritime sector in terms of employment in almost all EU member states with a coastline. In fact, it represents over 1/3 of the maritime economy. As part of European Union's Blue Growth Strategy, the coastal and maritime tourism sector has been identified as an area with special potential to foster a smart, sustainable and inclusive Europe. In order to be able to better understand what fish tourism is, you need to apprehend the context in which it falls within. Fish tourism is part of the wider context of marine coastal ecotourism. The latter is a sector of sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism encompasses the responsible use of natural resources for recreation. This includes eco-friendly boating, whale and dolphin watching, snorkeling and scuba diving, fishing, and other forms of tourism. Marine coastal ecotourism is a form of responsible travel to coastal and/or marine settings for environmental conservation, improvement of natural resources and to support the well-being on the local communities. It is considered as a rapidly growing and profitable market. Fish tourism is part of the wider context of marine ecotourism, and may involve the embarkation of persons who are not members of the crew on fishing vessels for recreational tourism purposes, as well as the accommodation, catering and general provision of special tourism services associated to fishing and aquaculture and related customs and traditions. At the core of this concept is the appreciation and enjoyment of the natural marine environment in all its forms, along with associated cultural features. Fish tourism is a new tourist activity that comes from the world of fishing. It is addressed to all the people who love the sea and the species that inhabit it, and who are fascinated by the possibility of climbing on board a working fishing boat to meet the fisherman, the only guardian of an ancient profession that encompasses traditions and culture. To practice fishing tourism means to observe and to actively participate in the activities of professional fishing, to develop practices of a sporting activity, to develop recreational tourist initiatives aimed both at gaining the knowledge of the coastal environment and at the promotion of the culture of the sea and fishing, and to participate in catering on board or on land. In the Mediterranean, Italy is a pioneer in fish tourism, and according to the National Italian Association Pescator, fish tourism means a cultural tourism service tied to the world of professional fishing, practiced at sea by fishermen, for the tourist client. Fish tourism is an alternative tourist activity addressed to people who want to be on board, meet the fishermen, See his working routine and actively participate in. It usually entails the following activities: conducting boat excursions along the coastline, watching the professional fishing activity, introduction to the traditional and classical fishing gear, provision of lunch on board or at shore, game fishing, provision of information on the marine environment and the coastal biodiversity, staying at fishermen's lodgings, tasting and purchasing food at local traditional fisheries. As it has been previously mentioned, the philosophy of fish tourism activity is aligned with marine ecotourism. The fish tourism combines the provision of special tourism services by the fishermen, the participation of the tourist in fishing activity, and the promotion and acknowledgement of local traditions and customs. The innovative input of fish tourism is that the provider of this multi-level tourism product is the fisherman and not a professional of tourism sector. The case here is to shift the fisherman into a mini businessman. The main aims of fish tourism are the creation of supplementary income for professional fishermen, tackling the fleeing of the youth from the coastal regions and encouraging them to follow the profession of fishermen, informing on environmental issues, protecting the environment, improving the quality of life of local communities, introducing and educating on new tourism trends, promoting cross-regional cooperation, encouraging participation of tourists in alternative activities and interactive learning of the fishermen's working techniques. Spending a whole day or several hours on board becomes a unique occasion, both for the fisherman and the visitor. On the one hand, the fisherman, while hosting the tourist or client, has the possibility to promote the culture of the sea, to educate on the traditions of fishing and of the local catch. On the other hand, the tourist, while being hosted, can enrich his knowledge of the local environment and experience the fishing way of life. Overall, it is a mutually constructive experience. Fish tourism has also important socio-economic benefits, especially for the coastal communities. It can assist fishing communities to confront important problems and to achieve growth by addressing low incomes, low levels of investment, high unemployment and outmigration. In particular, by using their specific skills and equipment, fishermen can provide certain services for tourists, for example act as guides along the coast or take people on their boats to watch wildlife. The fishing activity itself may also be a source of extra income, as tourists may be willing to pay for the opportunity to watch fishermen at work, as in the case of pescatourism. Some fishermen may even be able to offer accommodation in traditional fishing cottages as an additional activity. Additionally, fish tourism implementation requires the existence or construction of necessary infrastructure. In this sense, it could help to attract funds and thus create and/or preserve number of jobs within the region. Furthermore, given that fish tourism is a clearly nature-based leisure activity aiming at bringing visitors in contact with the marine environment, it can contribute to the protection and preservation of the marine ecosystems. Additionally, tourism attractions based on the fishing character or traditions of an area can contribute to the fishermen's sense of identity and pride in their profession or give them a stronger position in discussions on tourism development, while encouraging at the same time more people, especially younger ones, to this or relevant professions. Moreover, fish tourism can offer a special opportunity to achieve environmentally sound sustainable development that will help to meet the needs of the present generation without damaging the resource base for future generations. It can also make a contribution to the objective of balanced spatial development set out in the European Spatial Development Perspective, by addressing regional disparities through sustainable use of the region's indigenous potential. Fish tourism can indeed offer multiple benefits to the coastal areas of the European Union. However, if the development of fish tourism is not properly planned and managed according to principles of sustainable development, those benefits will not last. Fish tourism that is not truly sustainable due to overfishing, unregulated fishing, bad fishing practices, pollution, disrespect of the local community's interests, risks destroying its own resource base, perpetuating rather than breaking the cycle of renewal and disintegration that has plagued so many local areas along the Mediterranean coastline in recent decades. It is critical that communities throughout the whole of the EU Mediterranean area apply the same principles of good practice in formulating local solutions, because the coastal and marine resources upon which they depend are implicitly shared transnational resources. Professional fishing and traditional forms of tourism constitute the economic base for many Mediterranean coastal communities. Despite the seasonal revival of the above areas mostly during the summer period, one must point out the serious problems that they are affronting due to the progressive decline of fishing activity, the seasonality effects and the pressure of the international tourism market, among other reasons. The socio-economic lag of fishery and tourism-dependent areas force them to find an alternative form of development based on sustainability, instead of conventional and traditional seaside tourism. Diversification is the answer in this case. From a business point of view, diversification is basically a strategy that involves adding products, services, location, customers and markets to a company's portfolio. Reasons for diversification include reducing risk of relying on only one or few income sources, avoiding cyclical or seasonal fluctuations by producing goods or services with different demand cycles, achieving a higher growth rate, and countering a competitor by invading the competitor's core industry or market. Diversification is an imperative need for coastal areas and creates a lot of opportunities for them. On the demand side, given that more and more tourists are interested in something more than just the sun and the beach, they are looking for new activities and new experiences that extend beyond the traditional tourism offering. Indeed, tourism can benefit from the new concept of experience economy. On the supply side, coastal fisheries areas have many assets that are attractive to tourists. In addition to water, beaches and recreational activities, they can offer unspoiled environment, an abundance of fresh fish and a rich cultural heritage linked to fishing. Diversification can contribute to the sustainable development of coastal communities in multiple ways. First, the reorientation towards alternative forms of tourism, such as fish tourism, can facilitate the adaptation of a local economy into a more viable socio-economic structure. Secondly, it can give the opportunity to fishermen and their families to gain an additional income by hosting visitors on board and promoting local history, traditions and gastronomy. Thirdly, it promotes environmentally friendly forms of tourism. As tourists are more and more conscious of the environmental footprint of their activities, they choose the ones that respect the environment. In this context, the implementation of fish tourism respects maritime environment, given that the fishing components used during this kind of excursions are mostly nets and rods. Fourthly, alternative forms of tourism such as fish tourism comply with ethical and regulatory requirements. In the case of fish tourism, relevant activities require that the fishermen are trained in order to host tourists, and that the fishing vessels are adjusted in a proper way so as to meet passenger safety and hygiene regulations. Last but not least, diversification facilitates the creation of a strong network of small and medium enterprises providing supplementary tourism services. Naming such a chain, one can include the hotel or lodgement where the visitor can stay and relax, the tourism agency that organizes and promotes a fish tourism excursion where the visitor can also have dinner on board or give the fishing catches to a local restaurant or taverna, taste the traditional recipes and experience the local gastronomy. In other words, fish tourism can evolve to include a whole package of activities, and thus can remain attractive even in a highly competitive tourism market. The wider tourism industry has been growing at an important rate and is one of very few industries that have continued to grow worldwide during the crisis. Fish tourism, which falls within the tourism industry, can greatly benefit from this positive trend. As it has been previously underlined, the diversification of the tourism product can create important growth and employment opportunities in the coastal fishing areas. By including more activities that allow tourists experience new things such as recreational fishing along with cooking of the local catch and learning of fishing traditions and customs. The profession of commercial fisherman has a central role in the fish tourism industry. A commercial fisherman or fisher uses equipment like nets, fishing rods and traps, to catch fish and other marine life that will be consumed by humans or used as animal feed or bait. Some work as members of large crews on big boats in deep water. Other fishermen work in shallow water on small boats with a very small crew. If you wish to become a fisherman, you will have lots of opportunities for testing your strength in the open sea. It is not an 8-hour job. Sometimes you will have to be away from home for weeks or months. In addition, weather conditions are sometimes bad. Moreover, your pay is paid out as a share of your take once the overhead have been deducted. This means that if you catch a lot of fish, you will earn a good pay and vice versa if your catch is small. It is mainly a seasonal job and many commercial fishermen are self-employed. The duties that a commercial fisherman generally performs are the following: preparing the deck and equipment for the catch, operating equipment used for shooting and hauling, maintaining engines, fishing gear and other onboard equipment by doing minor repairs, gutting, storing and preparing the fish for sale, unloading the catch when the vessel returns to harbor, directing fishing operations and supervising the crew of the fishing vessel, steering vessel and operating navigational instruments, and measuring fish to ensure they comply with legal size and returning undesirable or illegal catches to the water. Professional fishermen usually learn on the job. They start by finding work through family or friends, or simply by walking around the docks and asking for employment. Some larger trawlers and purse seiners require more people for their operation. Although formal education is not required to be a fisherman, by enrolling in 2-year vocational technical programs offered by some high schools, fishermen can improve their chances of getting a job. Completing a short-term safety course is very important. In addition, some higher education institutions as well as private initiatives organizations may offer fishery technology and related programs that include courses in seamanship, vessel operations, marine safety, navigation, vessel repair, and fishing gear technology, thus enhancing the qualifications of a candidate and contributing to career advancement. Secondary and post-secondary programs are typically near coastal areas and include hands-on experience. Experienced professional fishermen may find short-term workshops especially useful. These workshops generally are offered through post-secondary institutions and provide a good working knowledge of electronic equipment used in navigation and communication. Technical skills are the abilities and knowledge needed to perform specific tasks. They are practical, and often relate to mechanical, IT, mathematical, or scientific tasks. Some examples include knowledge of programming languages, mechanical equipment, or tools. While technical skills are often most important for jobs related to information technology and other fields in the sciences, many other industries also want employees with at least some technical skills. Many of them require training and experience. In the case of the fish tourism industry, a certain set of technical skills is considered important. Machine operation and navigation skills. Fishermen must be able to operate, repair, and maintain sometimes complex fishing machinery, as well as systems and tools, for example electrical, sensors, sonar, radar, and to navigate boats to where the highest concentration of fish is located. Other relevant important skills for fish tourism should include seamanship, diving, first aid, medical care, safety, hygiene, training others, risk assessment, customer care, communications, and languages. Competence is defined as a cluster of related abilities, commitments, knowledge, and skills that enable a person or an organization to act effectively in a job or situation. Because each level of responsibility has its own requirements, competence can occur in any period of a person's life or at any stage of his or her career. In the fish tourism industry, the following set of competences is important. Analyzing. Fishermen and related fishing workers must measure the quality of their catch, which requires precision, accuracy, and attention to detail. Critical thinking. Fishermen need to have sound reasoning and judgment, as they determine how to improve the catch, while they must react appropriately to weather conditions. Problem solving. Problems may occur at any time. Bad weather conditions or accidents on board is not a rare phenomenon. Fishermen should be able to evaluate the situation and respond to such cases promptly. Listening and oral communication. Effective listening and communication is critical. In the context of fish tourism, fishermen should be able to effectively communicate with tourists, listen to their needs and wishes, in order to be able to provide them a pleasant experience. Teamwork collaboration. Given that in the professional fishing vessels, especially the big ones, a lot of persons work, performing different tasks, it is important to cooperate with the rest of the crew so that the boat operates effectively. This is a basic skill and principle which also applies when hosting and training tourists on board. Resilience, physical stamina and strength. Fishermen must be able to work long hours, often in strenuous conditions. They must use physical strength along with hand dexterity and coordination to perform difficult tasks repeatedly. Other important competences in the fish tourism industry are planning and organizing, leading, deciding, flexibility, adaptability, personal motivation, and customer orientation. Fishing tourism is still not consistently defined across Europe, but there is still only an emerging legal and regulatory framework. Fishing communities tend to be over-dependent on fishing, which is their only source of income. Diversification is needed to improve local livelihoods and ameliorate the declining profitability and employment. The natural and tourism assets of fishing villages provide diversification opportunities. The most common diversification into tourism is launching complementary activities to the fishing activities, such as hospitality services, fishing tours, development of new infrastructure and services. Activities related to the sea and coastal areas or neighboring rural areas for inland fishing. Most diversification experiences to date are located in marine and coastal areas. In such areas, professional fishermen use their own fishing vessels to give a tour to tourists, to provide them with food and lodging, to teach them about and involve them in their daily routine, as well as educate them on the customs and traditions of the area. Overall, it is a rewarding experience for both tourists and fishermen, as the former learn and experience new and interesting things, while the latter gain income. friends and a sense of moral satisfaction with their work.